Hello and welcome back in, you guys. We got a slightly different video here today. Generally, I save reactions for the Psyduck channel, but because this is a video reacting to somebody catching all the way up to the One Piece anime, I felt like it was more relevant to put it on this channel instead, the main channel. So here we go. Moist Critical, aka Charlie, aka Penguinz0, aka the Game Awards Content Creator of the Year. He has finally caught up to One Piece after 5 full years of watching. Which is kind of crazy to say. I feel like I've seen so many people finish their One Piece journey in half the time, but that's besides the point. It doesn't matter how long it takes you to finish One Piece, as long as you get the journey started, that's all that really matters. And honestly, it's pretty crazy seeing that he's finally caught up after all these years, because I remember watching his live streams 3 or 4 years ago, and he was stuck at Skypiea for the longest time. He was like, yeah, you know, I watch Skypiea, and every time I watch it, I just fall asleep, and I never just progress through a single episode. And here he is. I like to assume that his takeaway from One Piece is positive, but we'll see. I remember his last update about a year ago was more or less positive, so let's see his opinion now that he's finally caught up. And you might be wondering, Sai, why are you reacting to his video specifically? There's many people who have caught up to One Piece before. Well, that's because I'm a Charlie fan, guys. I'm so sorry, but he is one of the main reasons I did get into YouTube and why I have my very simple video formats. It's just been a long journey, and I feel like, yeah, I should probably check this out. So let's get right into it without further ado.
I started this journey 5 years ago, which feels like the blink of an eye now in the grand scheme of my One Piece journey, because I had tried numerous times to get into it and just never fell in love with it. But every time I would stream, I'd always be getting the question about, what's wrong with you, Charles? You gotta screw loose to not like One Piece. So I started it out of spite, and I gotta tell you, sports fans, the first year or so of that journey, for
Painful.
the first, like,
He hated
200 to 300 episodes were brutal. Trying to stay awake watching those arcs was a more difficult boss battle than trying to kick a heroin addiction. It was tough. But I pushed through, I persisted, and I've been giving you steady updates like once a year since, because after about 300 episodes, I did fall in love with
It's because he hit Water 7. Water 7 is the arc where you turn non-believers into believers, and that was true for me too. You know, I've been with One Piece for a very long time. It's hard to say like when exactly, because back then the English and Japanese versions were very different in terms of where they were at. But for me, what really sold me on One Piece over Naruto and Bleach, which were airing at the time, was Enies Lobby and Thriller Bark. Rob Lucci and Gecko Moria, man, they made me a absolute lover of One Piece, which sounds crazy because, you know, the previous arcs aren't bad by any means. It's just that Naruto and Bleach were in their bags at that time. And I was like, oh, One Piece is cool, but it's like, you know, I'm just keeping up with it at this point, right? I don't like love it. But then when we hit Enies Lobby and we got that major fight, it's like, whoa, like that's absurd. And then I was going through like an emo phase back in the day, and then we hit Thriller Bark, and I was like, yo, here we go. We got Perona in here, and Gecko Moria, my boys.
Experts may call it Stockholm Syndrome. I call it just objective improvements in the show itself. And I understand in the manga, everyone always says this, the pacing for the earlier arcs is just significantly better in the manga as opposed to the anime. And I imagine they're probably right, but I'd committed to watching the show. And I think once we start getting into like Water 7 territory, the show really hits its stride, and it maintains that. The show does get a drastic improvement, not only in animation, but in pacing, and I genuinely think everything in it starts to elevate. So I'm extremely happy I did.
The reason why, by the way, you know, you'll see a lot of people saying that the more they watch One Piece, the better it gets. It's not just because the storytelling is getting better, but I think that's because all the world building starts paying off. All the things from earlier arcs starts, you know, coming back, looping around, and I think that's what makes subsequent arcs better and better and better. I mean, hell, look at, you know, Elbaf right now, or Egghead Island. It's a culmination of all these things we've been looking forward to, all these things that are mentioned, all these characters that we've heard of in the past. And that is what makes One Piece great. It's because it's so long, it changes from it being like a detriment to like a positive. And I think that is very special.
And catch up with the show, because it is extraordinary. So now that I'm caught up, I'm just going to give you all of my thoughts, kind of like as a...
All right. Last video he made, he wasn't at Egghead yet. I think he just finished Wano. Will he like Egghead Island? Yeah, I feel like it's hard to hate Egghead. You can dislike the message and the pacing of that, which in the anime, it's a lot better. In the manga, it was a little bit of a drag, I'm not gonna lie. But generally, I think Egghead is such a small, condensed, well-animated arc. Everybody more or less will love it, right? Yeah, that's my take. I think he's gonna like Egghead Island.
All-encompassing debriefing, because like I said, I've been giving you yearly-ish updates on my One Piece progress. But I just want to put a nice little bow on all my thoughts on One Piece.
I will say this, sorry. I don't want to interrupt too much because we'll be here forever. But I do think it's a little bit odd that he's dropping this video today. You know, maybe he doesn't know, but Egghead finishes in 2 episodes in 2 weeks, and then it starts becoming seasonal. So it's like, dang, he really should have waited until the end of the arc to make this video, but I'm assuming he just caught up like this morning or something.
And I guess I'll get into the nitty-gritty here, the spaghetti and meatballs of Egghead specifically, since that's obviously the most recent arc. But anyway, overall, I love One Piece, like I said. I think the show offers some extremely high highs, but with that comes some lows as well. In particular, Fishman Island. That is my least favorite arc in the entire series. I hated that. That was a slog to get through, and I found so little to like about Fishman Island.
I hated Fishman Island, Foxy's arc, and Skypiea my first watch through. On my 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th watch through, I love those arcs. Minus Foxy. I never grew to love that whatsoever. I think it's one of the worst arcs out there. Lore relevant, very much so, but it's just not fun to sit through. But I just feel like going back to Fishman Island and rewatching it, it's not that bad. The pacing isn't awful there. You could say the story is a little bit of a slog, and that's fair, especially with the earlier scenes with Sanji and the Mermaid Cafe. But aside from that, I really do enjoy the Otohime Fisher Tiger flashback. Hody Jones, I also think, is a very compelling villain, a very real villain, but I can definitely see how Fishman Island isn't a lot of people's favorite. And yeah, pacing might have something to do with that, which is why whenever somebody hops into One Piece, I do always recommend One Piece. I know. As the avid One Piece guy, it's like, wait, it's blasphemous to say One Piece is good, but it is. Like, it is objectively good. It cuts out a lot of filler. So if you are starting One Piece, which I'm assuming everybody here is already caught up, but if you have ever considered rewatching One Piece is definitely the way to go, or at least check it out, right?
And I know I've yapped quite a bit about my disdain for that arc, and I'm not going to go too deep into it here, but just know that shit is poop. I do not like the green eggs and ham of Fishman Island. But my favorite arcs are as followed, in this order. My favorite arc is Marineford, followed by Innie's Lobby, followed by Dressrosa. And
Dressrosa's a hot take. Marineford is generally very well loved. Innie's Lobby well loved. I would want to squeeze Impel Down in there somewhere, unless, you know, he includes Impel Down in with Marineford, which if that's the case, yeah, it's like top dog. For me, a third. I do like Skypiea. As silly as that sounds, I think Skypiea is such a vibe. You know, I've turned from a hater to a lover of Skypiea. Damn. If I wanted to like pick another arc, like I said, I do think Thriller Bark is a lot of fun. But yeah, I get why he liked those arcs. Dressrosa is a very hot take, but you gotta remember, he watched One Piece. Like, that is why I think he likes Dressrosa so much. Because if you watched Dressrosa in the anime, it is something else, brother. It is genuinely a behemoth. And I am currently at Dressrosa as we speak in the regular anime. And let me tell you, I'm hitting the fast forward button every couple of seconds. I'm like, okay, let's just get this over with, brother.
The more thought I put into it, the harder it became to choose what are my definitive favorite arcs, because there are some turbo bangers in here. So it's always been a bit fluid, but the one that's never changed as my favorite arc is Marineford. That one's pretty unbeatable, but the rest have kind of moved here and there, ebbed and flowed. And I know Dressrosa in particular is a bit of a contentious pick to be in my top 3 arcs. Worth noting, I watched One Piece, so it cut out a lot of filler,
He's essentially saying everything that I just said.
Dressrosa was apparently famous for. I didn't get that experience. I got just a really high quality.
To anybody who's like, wait, what's so bad about Dressrosa pacing? Dude, let me tell you the amount of times we saw the Rebecca flashback. I shit you not, I think we saw the Rebecca flashback more than we have seen flashbacks of Naruto looking at that damn swing set. It's absurd the amount of times they can regurgitate the Rebecca toy soldier Kiros flashback. It's crazy, man. So yeah, it makes sense to like Dressrosa if you cut out all the nonsense. And I think they also added in a lot more scenes of Zoro getting lost with the Tontatas. The Tontata scenes were also just heavily dragged out. The Frankie Smile Factory scenes were dragged out as well. Pika as well. Like, there's so many scenes in the anime that just got dragged. So yeah, One Piece is definitely the way to go here.
Very compelling arc that I loved from start to finish. The storytelling, though, was good. Maybe my Dressrosa experience was very different than a normal anime watcher's experience if they watched all the filler and stuff. One Piece did an extraordinary job of keeping everything flowing, keeping it moving, and it was great. I really, really liked that arc, but I don't think anything will probably ever beat Marineford. I mean, I guess I can't say for sure because I don't know where One Piece is going to go, but Marineford was just a culmination of everything that had been building for so long in an extremely satisfying and emotional arc. This arc 100%. Also opened my third eye to a painful revelation that I may not know what the One Piece is yet, but I do know what the one truth is. That Mihawk is a fraud.
No!
Mihawk clashed briefly.
No! What the f? No! Okay. I did not think we would get agenda piece coming from Charlie. He said Mihawk's a fraud? Dude, what? That's crazy. I mean, hold up. Mihawk stocks don't look good, and I blame Marineford for that. The Vista pairing was god-awful. How far is the distance? Doesn't matter, dude. Context aside, it just looks bad on paper. It really does. And then Mihawk, the line with Crossguild, like, oh, you're telling me we have to fight the Emperors? Blackbeard, Luffy, and Shanks? And then for some reason they give him like a little sweat beat. We know he's got to be strong, right? Like, it makes no sense for him to not be strong. But the anime doesn't really do him any favors. Or should I say Oda doesn't really do him any favors. I have high hopes for Mihawk. I think he's so freaking cool. But objectively, like on paper, if we're just looking at the feats and the showings he has, it's not looking good. It really isn't. But there's absolutely no shot he's not like top tier. Like, I don't think he's like top 1, but you know, like he's in the top 10 discussion, top 5 discussion, right? But where is he, man? He needs to fight. This is the problem with him wanting a cozy life. People start thinking he's a fraud, man.
Briefly with Vista in the Marineford arc, and it became abundantly clear that this man might just not be the world's greatest swordsman.
What's also tough is that Vista has never made a reappearance. We don't know where the hell Vista's at current day. So it's like, dude, if Vista gets introduced and he loses to somebody, the Mihawk slander would not stop. Like, imagine Vista current day in Egghead. Just to not, like, get into Elbaf stuff too much. It's like, let's say he's in Egghead and he fights, like, Nasuduro, and Nasuduro one-shots him. Brother, the Mihawk stocks would be in the mud. Mihawk and Vista are so intertwined that if Vista somehow loses anywhere in the world, it makes Mihawk look bad. I mean, I think Vista was a part of the revenge war, right, against Blackbeard, and he lost there. And thank God nobody's really talking about that. Like, oh, you're telling me Blackbeard beat Vista? Hide Mihawk. Like, oh my God.
Maybe he's like King from One Punch Man, where everyone just perceives him as this unbeatable, indomitable force of nature.
It's crazy he brings up King, because I don't think he knows about the Monster one-shot. I think he does, actually, because it has like a whole Netflix adaptation. But people look at Shirano, who was the, quote, greatest swordsman in that OVA, and they're like, yo, like, he's kind of like Mihawk. He looks like Mihawk. That's probably OG Mihawk. And then Shirano in the Monster series was somewhat of a fraud. Not like a full fraud. He could fight. It's just that he was nowhere close to Ryuma. And because of that, people are like, oh, Mihawk's a fraud. Confirmed. His prototype was a loser.
But in reality, he's just not. We haven't seen Mihawk do a single fucking thing since he clashed with Zoro at the Baratie.
I can't believe this.
Like 20 years ago. Like, it is so sad. Like, it is actually just so sad. He just gets by on aura and aura alone. Speaking of world's greatest swordsman, for the longest time throughout this series, my favorite character was Zoro. But now that I'm finally caught up, it's still Zoro.
Yeah, I was about to say, who would it
be? It
be?
was then and it is now.
Like, there's not a lot of swordsmen out there.
People like to boil him down to just being like a very one-dimensional flat character, but I just think that they're not watching the same show. That's so disingenuous. I can recognize that his motivations and a lot of the side quests, we'll call them, that he goes on are simpler than the rest of the crew, but that doesn't mean that he lacks as much depth as they have. I think Zoro is a perfect character to contrast the rest of the crew, and I always appreciate where he ends up throughout the arcs. My favorite villain is Doflamingo.
Oh, shoot. Okay, so favorite Straw Hat is Zoro. Favorite villain, Doflamingo. Which, yeah, I mean, a lot of people still love Dofi today, even though we last saw him, like, what, 10 plus years ago? Yeah, if I had to, like, pick a favorite Straw Hat, it is between Zoro and Sanji. I think I would err towards Zoro. I just really enjoy, like you said, you know, how different Zoro is from the rest of the cast. And what really sealed the deal for me was back during Water 7, where we just finished beating Rob Lucci, and they're like, oh, I heard Usopp wanted to rejoin the crew, and then Zoro's like, hey, guys, he's not joining until he apologizes. And then everybody's like, wait a minute, Zoro, what are you talking about? And he's like, guys, we're not playing pretend here. We're real pirates, man. And I was like, okay, Zoro's the GOAT. I just think that scene is amazing. Of course, if you want like an easy one-up, nothing happened. Outside of that, Zoro's like small interactions with side characters, like especially in Wano, right? Zoro Yasui, Zoro Hiyori, Zoro Otama. Like, I think Zoro is just, he's a really good generic character. Generic's like the wrong way to put it, but you guys get what I mean, right? Like, generally, he's just well loved. Like, there's not a bad aspect of Zoro or something that makes him look bad. Even his detrimental gag, which is him getting lost, it's not that bad. If anything, it's just silly. Like, oh, Zoro, how are you getting lost, brother? It's right there. Like, yeah, there's nothing to really hate about Zoro, minus just if you don't like swordsmen. Doflamingo, yeah, I don't have any real opinions on that. Favorite villain for me is still gonna be probably Akainu or Rob Lucci, but yeah, everybody loves Doflamingo.
My most slept-on superstar is Magellan. I'm somewhat of a Magellan maniac. I believe that...
I was hoping you'd say Eustace Kid. I was going to say, wait, oh, is this going to be a hot take? Is it going to be Eustace Kid? Magellan. Yes, everybody loves Magellan. He's a monster. Personally, I like him and Hannibal a lot as a duo, which, you know, when people mention Magellan, they don't mention Hannibal, but hey, Magellan is prepping Hannibal to be his successor. I'm looking forward to post-time skip Magellan and Hannibal feats. And I think they will come back into the story sooner rather than later because everybody's kind of expecting an Impel Down breakout. And of course, it's funny he mentioned Doflamingo, but Magellan and Doflamingo were last seen together, so maybe we will get something there.
If that man could get off the toilet for even just an additional 3 or so hours and they'd let him spread...
One reason why I really like Magellan, this is like TMI. I have IBS. Dude, I'm on that toilet. I'm not even joking, like 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. It is bad. Mid-workout, let me use the toilet. At work, let me use the toilet. During this video, let me use the toilet. So Magellan is kind of like my soul character in One Piece. So yeah, there we go.
His fucking wings outside of his prison. That man could be an actual threat. Now, of course, it's just pure delusion and hopium to believe that we might see him again engaging in the overall
no, it's not crazy
of One Piece. I think his role is kaput. He himself is a prisoner of the shitter, and he will probably never leave Impel Down. But I think if he ever did, he would genuinely be an extremely powerful character.
Waters are rising right now, and even Doflamingo mentioned it, like, hey, prison's gonna flood, we should go somewhere higher up. Like, that is a real thing. And Impel Down, it's not like any other island where, you know, like, they have higher ground. Impel Down, the water levels were already right here, right? Like, there's only one real entrance to Impel Down, so if the water levels rise just a little bit more, or like a bad wave hits, yeah, the prison's gonna get flooded. Like, it just has to do with how the prison is built. Which I bet, like, during the Void Century, it's going to be like, oh, like, this is why they built it like that. But current day, it's getting destroyed, 100%.
Even in, like, the current landscape of things. My most controversial take on One Piece is that Sabo is genuinely a fanfic character that you have to suspend disbelief in order to accept his...
Yeah, I mean... He is very fanficky. It's essentially Ace 2.0. I don't hate Sabo. Like, he's fine. I just don't love Sabo. You know, he's just there. He really is just Ace, but blonde. And it doesn't help that we didn't first hear about Sabo until after Ace died. You could argue that Oda always had Sabo in mind because of the Ace tattoo and it had the S there, but, you know, it would be better if we just, like, heard the Sabo name drop during Alabaster or something like that. It just feels very shoehorned that, hey, Ace is dead. Here's Sabo. Here's Dragon picking him up. And then 2 arcs later, Sabo's alive. It's like, sure, why not? Why not? And then he eats Ace's devil fruit.
Presence in this series. I really, like, the more and more I think about Sabo, the less and less sense it makes for him to even be here. Just this secret third brother that just happens to pop up out of nowhere.
And one big plot hole is that the whole thing about Sabo regaining his memories comes from him seeing Ace in the newspaper. You could say that, you know, this was the biggest reaction because Ace is dead, but surely Ace was in the newspapers beforehand, same with Luffy. I mean, they pass out bounty posters pretty often. The revs stay up to date. Surely you've seen Ace and Luffy's bounty posters before. Surely you heard about, like, Luffy destroying Enies Lobby. Like, did nothing, like, spur those memories back until Ace died? Did you really need that big of a shock? Or was Sabo just never around, like a telephone or like a, I don't know, a newspaper coup? Yeah, Sabo's a weird one. But like I said, it's one of those things you kind of just roll with. Like, I don't hate Sabo. I just don't love him as much as the next guy.
He is the well-known second in command of the Revolutionary Army, a world-famous group, and yet somehow Ace, who himself is extremely notorious and high-ranking in the Whitebeard Pirates.
Actually, he's cooking. I never thought about it from that angle. Yeah, how does Ace not know about Sabo if Sabo is reputable and Sabo has a bounty? Sabo has a bounty. How did Ace not know? Ace is a part of a Yonko crew. Wow, that's... Okay, hey, Charlie should join the One Piece community, actually. That's kind of a good one, actually. Wait a minute.
Never knew Sabo was alive?
Wait a minute.
Was Ace illiterate? Maybe, but even if he was illiterate, why the fuck couldn't he see pictures in a newspaper? Did he never hear Sabo's name, even though apparently everyone knew about...
And you can't say that the world of One Piece is big and you haven't just heard about Sabo because, like, there's so much news circulating. Because genuinely, the Revs are a massive organization. And same with the Whitebeard Pirates, right? It's a two-way street. Like, these are really big groups, man.
Revolutionary Army, and there was never anything in Ace's ear that was like, wait, Sabo, it's ringing a bell. My brother. It just doesn't compute, and especially the timing makes it even more fishy, where it feels like the sole reason behind Sabo's presence in the story is that he was drummed up, conjured as a replacement to Ace. He just happens to come through after Ace's death. He also gets Ace's devil fruit. It really feels like Sabo's entire purpose was just to be a Ace replacement. And the way Sabo even is used in the story itself is very odd. He's kind of here as like this...
Yeah, Dressrosa was very odd for Sabo, because we know that he's stronger than Doflamingo, right? Like there's no questions about that. If Sabo fought against Doflamingo, he'd be fine. But it's also a thing where he looks at Luffy, he's like, hey, Luffy, you got this. You have your adventures. And it's like, dang, Sabo, I don't know. He does kind of feel like a plot device, but that thing is kind of whatever. It's shonen, man. I let that one slide.
Powerful, damn near omniscient presence who can do everything and is used exclusively for, like, these fake-out
stall
moments.
Matches.
So, like,
a big one is Film Gold. I remember the trailer for Film Gold, they teased Rob Lucci and Sabo fighting, and then you go to theaters, you watch the movie, what happens is that they do this, and that's the end. Like, you don't see anything else. That's essentially it. And then he even did that at Dressrosa with Fujitora, where Fujitora's like, and then, you know, just however he talks. And then Sabo stalls him for, like, I think 3 or 4 episodes, and then they're like, hey, let's just call it a quits. And Sabo's like, yep. See you later. That's pretty much it. Yeah, Sabo's a funny character. Current day, I will say his role is being upped because of the Reverie. and because of his whole title of Flame Emperor, it seems like they're propping him up to be like the next dragon, but we'll see where that goes.
He goes to the world government and, like, the 5 elders attack him. He might be dead, but he's not dead. He's on an island. The island gets blown up. Sabo might be dead. He's not dead. It's like, it's very weird. Sabo as a character just doesn't really fit with the rest of the characters One Piece introduces. And it just feels like the way in which he is put into the story feels very forced and very out of left field. Now, not to be confused with me being a Sabo hater, I don't even really dislike him or anything. It just feels very odd how he gets into this story in the first place and the way in which he is used in the story.
And I could see a lot of people being upset at Charlie's take here, but I mean, that's the thing, right? Everybody has their own opinions. I generally agree with him. It doesn't bother me as much, but I agree. I agree.
But his scenes are hype. Like, it is a cool sequence when he, like, tries to save Cobra and everything. Like, it is cool to watch, but I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense how we even got to that point with Sabo in the first place is all. But still are cool sequences with Sabo, and I do think that he is an interesting character. Anyway, though, let's now dive into Egghead. So when I was first watching Egghead, I was a pretty vocal Scrooge on it. I didn't really love the first half of the Egghead arc.
First half, it's all just setup, right? I feel like things really kick off when CP0 arrives, which, I mean, that Rob Lucci fight is immaculate. Like, one of the best fights in the series, hands down. Hot take, I do enjoy the Rob Lucci fight more than the Kaido fight, just because of, like, how condensed it is, right? Rob Lucci and Luffy, 1 or 2 episodes done. Kaido, Luffy, like, 30 episodes spanned, you know, bits and pieces here and there. I really enjoy the Rob Lucci fight, and the animation quality is crazy as well. First half of Egghead, what's there? It's really just being introduced to Vegapunk. We get Bonnie stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's really just setting up the latter half. And in my opinion, it doesn't stick around too long. Egghead is a relatively short arc. So I think that's why I'm not the biggest critic of it.
The second half, however...
Yeah, there he goes.
Significantly better and much more invested. I think the second half of Egghead has been really, really, really good. First half, bit of a snoozer. But I do think it was necessary to eat your vegetables first here in this case because it does help lay the foundation and build the stakes for what comes in the second half. But yeah, I really was not liking the first half of Egghead. I really didn't like the Seraphim, by the way. I didn't think that they were a strong addition to the One Piece story. Vegapunk, love Vegapunk. I love everything with...
The Seraphim do feel like they're just going to be stall opponents later on. Like, when we get to that final war, the government will have the Seraphim under their beck and call. And it's like, oh, Seraphim, we need you to fight these guys because they're too strong. And then maybe they fight the warlords. Maybe they fight, like, the allied pirates. And then, you know, we give them an opponent like that. That's kind of how I view them. I generally am okay with the Seraphim. I do want more Lunarians in the story like King. I feel like he can't just be, like, the last of his race. So having more of them, I think, is awesome. And I do look forward to the day where they're liberated. But generally... the Seraphim do feel a little bit odd, at least in Egghead, because they were very present in the first half, and, you know, some of the second half too, but after they got put in the bubbles, it's like, okay, see you later, and that's pretty much it. Like, even nowadays, like, when Jupiter shot them out, and he inhaled them, blah, blah, they're still just in the bubbles. Like, they're kind of done. Their storyline is wrapped up by that point. So I do want to see how Oda utilizes them in the future, but right now, it's like, they're kind of just there.
Stella, I think that is so good, and I really think I can't remember if I've been doing spoilers when going through my One Piece journey. I think for the most part I have been, because a lot of the arcs that I've been covering are like fucking 15 years old, but I don't know if I should do spoilers for Egghead since it's still
Please
fresh.
Do spoilers, everybody's caught up.
I'll try and Nah, I'm going to have to get into spoilers. There's no way I can talk about some of the things I didn't like about it without getting into spoilers. Let's start with the things that I really like. Kuma's backstory.
It's wintertime.
My oh my, did they hit a grand slam with Kuma's backstory. That is probably the peak flashback... I don't want to use the word arc because it's not a flashback arc, but peak emotional character backstory so far in the show. I thought they really crushed Kuma's story. It
was really good.
Tragic.
The run at the end is amazing.
And his whole existence in the show is just agony. And even where he ends up
just nonstop suffering, dude.
There's nothing happy about it. For a character that himself is so positive, despite everything he went through as a child with his parents and himself being enslaved and them being killed in front of him, with his father being murdered in front of him, still trying to find the light and still holding on to the hope of that legendary hero that will come to save them, and then trying to make a difference with the Revolutionary Army and saving people, and then himself still being dealt such a bad hand. There's always fingers crossed, hoping something finally goes Kuma's way, but it never does. Even when he's raising Bonnie, she's gonna die if he doesn't give over his humanity.
Comedically tragic, dude. Like, Kuma hit every single roadblock on the road. It is insane how much one guy can actually suffer. And, you know, spoilers for Elbaf, but I do wonder what's going to happen with him current day. Because they're teasing that, you know, he could come back to life. Like, oh, like, yeah, I could fix him up. Your dad will be fine. It's like, really? Is it that simple? Are we really just going to bring Kuma back? I wouldn't hate it. I'm very mixed on the idea of bringing Kuma fully back, because I feel like the tragedy is his character at this point, like his sacrifices. If we bring him back after the fact, I just don't know. I don't know. I gotta like see it play out, but yeah.
To the world
Kuma's
government,
amazing.
To Vegapunk to turn into this soulless killing machine, basically. The Pacifista program, all based around him. A weapon for the government. And he does it out of love for his daughter. But to save her, he had to abandon her. And then she went on her own pirate journey quest. Now she's gotten the truth. Wants revenge on the 5 elders who are overseeing the program, in particular, Saturn. And Saturn becomes like our main big bad of the arc. And I think he's a really good villain. And he's not alone. There are other villains there like Rob Lucci and Kaku, whom I do think they're good villains. But I didn't like the flip-flopping so many times there. I think that was a little overdone. I get why it's there. Stussy also being there. Her role was very cool. That was quite
it was for the shonen hype
reveal there with her
Everybody
role and
loves
everything.
the hero-villain team-up.
But even though I like Rob Lucci and Kaku, like their presence there, the amount of flip-flopping I think was just a bit excessive. But in addition to their presence being there, there's also Kizaru. And Kizaru is a very interesting villain, because prior to this, we'd always seen him as just like this callous, uncaring, calm, cold, bad guy. Like, do I need to kill him? Fine, I suppose it would be stimulating. I am a little bored. Here I go, reluctantly killing for the sake of the government.
Unclear
and that's
justice.
all you ever really got, so you're under the impression that he's just like this guy who will do pretty much everything and he won't feel anything. Just basically a heartless bad guy. Well, here we get a lot more fleshing out, a lot more backstory. It turns out he is actually somewhat intertwined deeply with Bonnie, Kuma, Vegapunk. So when he is tasked by Saturn to kill Vegapunk and Bonnie, he really doesn't want to. You can start to see emotion in this character.
God.
When he does ultimately kill Vegapunk.
Charlie picked that up from the anime? There's manga readers who still don't believe this. Oh, goodness gracious, Charlie.
He is anything but happy. And it feels like there's almost this sense of relief when Luffy is able to actually overpower him. And he makes like the treasonous decision to feed
don't
Luffy
say that too loudly.
When Luffy was, you know, out of energy, out of power.
Wait,
so
what did he say?
Feed Luffy when Luffy.
He picked it up too. I mean, obviously, this was more apparent in the anime. But brother, when everybody saw that Luffy got fed and, you know, we didn't know who did it, it's like, okay, it's Kizaru. The ramen bowls are the same from on the ship. He was the #1 option, but so many people hated it. It's like, bro, he doesn't want Vegapunk to die. If Luffy can save Vegapunk, Kizaru's gonna kind of let that happen, but he's not gonna like give it to them on a silver platter. But yeah, big things were going on in the manga community during the Kizaru scenes, but generally, I do think Kizaru's confliction made Egghead great, and it's made me really excited to see the future for Kizaru. Just seeing like what he does later, like when he sees that, you know, VP is alive and, you know, Bonnie's still here, yada yada, like what will he do then? Because it's one thing to attack them the first time and kill Vegapunk the first time, but if he sees Vegapunk alive again later on in the series, it's like, wait a minute. Is he really going to fight again on the world government side, or will he actually switch at that point? It reminds me of Garp at Marineford, where he's like, yeah, we'll execute Ace, we'll let this happen. And he was very reluctant. Then Ace dies, and then he's like, okay, I'm killing Sakazuki, man. And then you could see that Garp is very remorseful about that. I think Kizaru's going through the same thing here, where, yeah, if he was given a second chance, he probably wouldn't have done any of this. But I just generally think that if he sees Vegapunk again, he's not gonna fight them. He's gonna assist. That's my headcanon.
Luffy was, out of energy, out of power, so that we can continue to fight against Saint Saturn. So we got a lot more out of him, and I thought it was really interesting, and I'm so curious to see what his motivations are. What does he want? What is his goal?
He really should have waited 2 more episodes to make this video, man. Because we would have gotten the whole Kizaru Sakazuki scene. Dude.
What is he doing? It's so good, the way a lot of these things were built up and how they were executed here so far in Egghead. This is also the arc in which we get the most exposition on the Void Century and filling in the blanks for everything that's been happening that has been a mystery to this point, like with the poneglyphs, Joy Boy.
Don't get your hopes up too high.
Gives a final message to the entire
Vegapunk is still
world,
very vague,
revealing so much information, much to the chagrin of the 5 elders, whom show up at Egghead to try and put the kibosh on the broadcast and shut everything down because they can't have these secrets getting out about what's happened in the past. It's just really satisfying now, because it feels like we're finally starting to see the big picture. We're starting to get these breadcrumbs to follow for what it all means and what actually happened 800-900 years ago. Who is Joy Boy and everything? Who are the 5 elders in Emu? What is all of this? It's so, it's hard to not wait on bated breath for the next episode and the next big reveal. Oh, also, one of my earlier complaints with this show, the whole series, is that there was always this hesitation to kill someone, even if their role in it had been finished.
This is why I kind of am looking forward to see his reaction to Kuma being alive. When it comes to the big reveals, I think the next big reveal is Joy Boy, which should be the next anime episode, which that'll feed generations.
Whole arc, Arlong or someone, pretty much a villain who served their purpose that I don't think we'll ever see again. The show still had a tendency to just knock them out and move on. They fainted, and that's
it still kind of does.
Never to be seen again. And they did that with every character, not just villains, but any character I thought that they were setting up for a death, didn't die. Most notably, Pell, so long ago. And I get with Pell.
Thinking back to major arc antagonists that have actually died, I don't think we have any minus Saturn. Yeah, I mean, a lot of side characters have died, like Verigo, Monet, just thinking of a couple of random examples. But yeah, generally, if you are the main villain of an arc, you're gonna be fine, because you're gonna be brought back at some point, unless you're Saturn, because Saturn just got fucking cooked, dude.
There was a lot of stuff going on at the time there with
and
Pell,
then Kaido Big Bomber's still a big debate.
Him not ultimately facing a demise there. I get that, but that's just another example that I'm pulling from. There are countless others of characters that I thought should have died there to amplify the emotional stakes of what was being built to. With Egghead, though, no longer does it feel like there is a hesitation to kill off characters. There is a lot of characters.
He really should have waited 2 more episodes. Well, granted, I think it'd be 3 or 4 until we get that stuff, but Kuma still alive, Vegapunk still alive, all of the Vegapunk bodies still alive, but just combined into a Megapunk. He's saying this a little bit too soon. I remember I had the same takeaway as he did when we were there. I was like, oh yeah, they're dead. We're not gonna see Shaka or Atlas, Edison anymore. And then it's okay, they're back. And then Vegapunk has a body double that they're gonna start creating. Kuma is gonna get his memories back. It's yeah.
Deaths in here that I didn't expect, that I didn't see coming, that are important characters. So it really does feel like we're reaching
unless
the
he's talking about
game.
the flashback, but I mean, you don't really count flashback deaths as deaths per se. Because, like, you go into that flashback knowing that they're probably going to die anyways. Like, Rosie and Nante, a great example. In Elbaf, we have a lot of those examples as well. It's like, flashback deaths, I don't necessarily, count.
Here, I just wanted to make a mention of that. No longer is that like a complaint I have with recent One Piece. They are like actively killing characters. Like, it feels like it's getting much more intense. Now, one of my biggest complaints so far about Egghead, though, and it's not even in the first half, it actually is in the second half, bringing all 5 elders here, I think...
Oh, he's gonna bring up the power scaling thing, yeah. The elders kind of seem like a joke. They're strong, yes. They regenerate, yes. We didn't beat them here, yes. But to see the elders go all out to stop a broadcast and to stop the Straw Hats and being unsuccessful on both fronts, it doesn't make them look good. And they should be, like, Emu's top soldiers, right? And then we have the God Knights who we'll see later on, and they also haven't been performing well. And it's like, dude, who does Emu actually have that is a threat? Like, yes, they're threats, but it's like they're nowhere close to like your Kaidos or Big Moms. And it's like, dang, like, is this who are fighting in the final war? Like, just these guys? Because once you beat the regeneration gimmick, they're not absurdly tough per se. So yeah, bringing all 5 of them here, I think, made the Gorosei stocks go down a lot. Emu stocks go down a little bit. But yeah, I see where he's going.
Have made them seem weaker than they are. So I like Saint Saturn.
Maybe
as
they'll
a villain.
look better
I think he's
later.
A great villain. But
maybe because
him
Emu's
actually
not there,
fighting
they're not
Luffy,
locked in.
he looks like a bitch.
That's my
And
hope.
I get Luffy as, the new Joy Boy is supposed to be absolutely fucking stomping this man. He's basically blue waffling all over Saint Saturn. It's not even really a contest. But Saint
Saturn, I think, has only landed one actual blow on Luffy, and that was like through the eye powers, which Luffy tanked so that he could actually hit him with the Dawn Gatling. It's like Saturn was very underwhelming. Like, for one of the top 5 authority figures in the world, yikes.
Saturn as a fighter is really underwhelming. He's basically like the Derek Zoolander of the One Piece universe. He has one move. He has one look, and it's just by throwing out his little spider legs, and that's it. He doesn't do anything besides that. Even when he's not fighting Luffy and he's like going after the rest of the Straw Hat crew, he can't even like kill them because he's only...
Yeah, he did not hit a single Straw Hat crew member. He hit Chopper, but Chopper just tanked it. It was so odd to watch it in the anime because you'll have the Straw Hat standing still and Saturn's just like doing all of this and essentially hits nobody. And nobody was even trying to dodge. It's like, bro, Saturn, like, lock in, dude. What are you doing?
Using his spider legs and nothing else. And then he's like, oh, this is a waste of my fucking time. I'm just going to run. So he does. So he goes to the next thing. These insects, I won't bother with them. Like, it just makes him look like not a very terrifying presence. And when they brought the other 5 elders in there, the same phenomenon happened where, because now there's so many, they can't give a whole lot of focus to them. So instead, they all only do one thing. Warkery, I think, is the best example of that. That fucking goober is the equivalent to that goddamn Rick and Morty butter robot whose only purpose is to serve butter. All Warkery can do is go into boar form and charge. That is all they show him doing. All he does is just charge. So, like, when the Giants
whenever
arrive,
he takes an attack, he just, like, stops and stares for a little bit. I remember, like, when Luffy hit him with a red rock, Warkery just stood there and was like, bro, like, what are you doing, man? Like, go do something, Warkery. Like, what do you mean?
By the way,
it's
super
so
hype. I'm extremely excited that Elbaf is being brought into the Mega Mix here. Bragi Dory back in the fold now. It's very exciting that they're there. They're having a good time. They're super powerful. And Warkery, all he does is just charge and headbutt. That's it. It just makes him seem kind of lame. He's like an E-Honda player in Street Fighter 6 just spamming that one headbutt special. That is good. All Warkery does. So, like, it just makes it feel like he's not real.
Another thing that makes it seem odd is that all of these Gorosei members should have a hybrid human form, but they don't whip it out. They just stay in these, like, gigantic monster forms, which I feel like is a detriment when you're fighting the giants. Like, because the giants are so big, like, if you're smaller, I feel like you could, maneuver around them, use some speed feats, but yeah, the Gorosei are a little bit silly right here, but hopefully in the final war, they look a lot better. Like I said, my hope is that Emu isn't around. Because Emu seemingly gives them powers, maybe if they're nearby, these guys just get stronger. Kind of like 5G Wi-Fi or something.
Really a threat. He only can do one thing, and he's not even succeeding at it. Like, he's not even doing a good job with headbutting. And that's just so underwhelming for these 5 elders, whom we have this entire time been led to believe probably the most fearsome, terrifying creatures on the fucking face of that planet.
So much.
And yet here all 5 of them are just getting toyed with, really.
Hey, don't worry, Charlie. The God Knights are gonna show out one day. The Gorosei, they're politicians. The God Knights, they're the Secret Service. Are the Secret Service even fighting? Anyways, just bad analogy.
Laughed at, getting blasted around. Like, they can't even stop a broadcast. Like, they can't even find the transponder snail and destroy enough things to stop it. Granted, they have to be a little careful with the Mother Flame, I get that. But they just don't look as strong as we've been led to believe, because now all 5 of them were here.
When we first got to Egghead, a big question, and granted, Kaido was winning the poll. But I asked, I was like, okay, guys, who's stronger, Kaido or Saturn? Before we saw, like, real Saturn feats, we just saw the transformation. 55% of people voted for Kaido. 45% voted for Saturn. If I reheld that poll today, after Egghead, it's probably going to be, like, 90-10. Like, 90% on Kaido, 10% on Saturn, dude. Like, the performance is just so tragic.
Still basically getting embarrassed. Like, so far, there hasn't been a moment where I'm actually concerned about a character because of the 5 elders' presence, because they're just not good at doing anything they aim to do here.
The geriatrics.
I think it would have just been far stronger if it was only Saint Saturn who was up against everyone, the giants.
And they could have done that, to be fair. Like, spiders are known for giving mass birth. I remember a popular theory back in the day. Everybody was talking about this, but they were saying, okay, Saturn, because he needs to fight so many people, maybe Saturn will give birth on the battlefield, and like 1,000 Saturn spider babies will just come out and, fight everybody. And that was a cool theory back during its time. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. They had to log in, they had to call the other Gorosei members because of the broadcast. But it would be nice if Saturn was like the only Gorosei here. And then, yeah, we whoop them, and then it's like, oh, like, maybe he was the weakest. We don't know what the others can do yet. But now that they're all here, it's like, damn, dude, they all kind of didn't look that great.
Luffy, the Straw Hat crew, all while trying to stop Vegapunk's desperate broadcast to the rest of the world to get the truth out there. And Saint Saturn, against all these odds, is still making it a close fight. That, I think, would have been a really strong showcase for the 5 elders and how scary they can be, that one of them is able to go against all the strongest in the universe there. But the fact that all 5 show up and still can't succeed, it makes it seem like, well, Luffy will probably end up just fucking dog-walking them at some point. Like, it doesn't really feel like they're as terrifyingly powerful as I thought they were now. Whereas, again, if it was
one of the main arguments is that people are saying that, oh, Luffy's an emperor, he shouldn't be struggling anymore. But it's like, well, I mean, that's, shonen, man, come on. We love seeing main characters fight up. That's the whole thing, right? Seeing these main characters overcome hurdles, get stronger, learn new abilities. If Luffy just starts dog-walking every single opponent, I do personally think that'd be a little bit underwhelming. Like, I want Luffy to struggle still, man. Like, I want him to, like, realize that he needs to train a little bit more, master his devil fruit, yada yada. And you could say Saturn isn't that guy to push Luffy there, and that's fine. But I just hope in the future we do get tough opponents, minus, your big bads like Emu and Blackbeard. I hope there's, like, smaller opponents on the side, or, like, servants on the side who do make Luffy realize that, he's not there yet. There's still levels he has to overcome.
Saturn there, I'd be left thinking like, damn, this is just one of them able to, do so much across all of Egghead here. I can't even imagine what'll happen when the other 4 get involved. But now I don't have to imagine. I know what happens when the other 4 get involved. Still fucking nothing. They still can't, like, kill even, like, a giant or anything. They can't stop a broadcast. They can't do shit. Like, it just makes it feel like the 5 elders are just kind of weak. That's just, like, my main complaint so far with Egghead. It kind of took a lot of the oomph out of the 5 elders. Anyway, though, that's really, like, my only major complaint with the second half of Egghead. Like I said, didn't love the first half, but maybe it just wasn't my cup of tea. There's really nothing in there in particular I think was bad. Even, like, with the 5 elders, I don't think it's bad. It's just, I don't know, it felt a little underwhelming given how much had been built up about them is all. But overall, I think it's a very strong arc, and I'm really, really happy that I caught up to One Piece and I get to enjoy this in real time now as we're entering, like, you know, the end of this legendary series. I think it's a masterpiece. I will say, though, I don't expect anyone to follow suit and, like, force themselves to watch 300 episodes if they're not enjoying it. I think it's totally fine if you just don't like One Piece after X amount of episodes to just say it's not for you and be done with it.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong
fair
with that. I probably would have done the same thing if it wasn't for me being so spiteful. Like,
sometimes it's just not your genre as well. There are just some people out there who could never like One Piece, and that's totally fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
I probably wouldn't have pushed through as hard as I did.
Yeah, it's not
and
for
then
everybody.
I did actually fall in love with it. Again, not Stockholm Syndrome, just an acquired taste. My taste buds got a little more refined is all, as the show got better. Anyway, I just wanted to give you this yearly update here, basically. Fully caught up, we fucking did it. That's really about it. So yeah.
That's a big accomplishment, man. That is a big freaking accomplishment. But yeah, that is it. Just wanted to check out his reaction, and honestly, it's kind of what I expected. Last thing to end off on is that I just hope he does a follow-up review once Egghead is over. Like I said, I think we only have like 2 or 3 episodes left, and we'll see what his thoughts are later, right? When we see like the Mega Punk, you know, Saturn's, blah, blah, like all that, I think that'll be fun. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I just wanted to chime in and just watch this video with you guys because, like I said, I'm a big Moist Critical fan, and it's One Piece related, so there we go. Peace out. Stay safe, you guys.